Metal cartridge faucets. Those three words combined have given me so much pain and frustration. In fact, I think it is probably the most pain and frustration I have had in the past 3 years, in which I have gone through one breakup as well as a whole year of this whole COVID fiasco. But this still takes the damn cake. So first of all, I live in France in an apartment that has not been lived in for about 30 years, meaning everything was old as all heck when I first got in here. And I've changed a lot of things, but one thing I have not changed is these faucets. You won't be able to recognize these faucets, cartridge faucets, with this sort of design where it has one faucet for cold and one faucet for hot, right? That's pretty standard. It's sometimes a little dated, but you still see it every now and then. However, nowadays, if there is a modern faucet that uses the cartridge system, it is not made of metal, it is made of plastic, and that fixes so many of the issues that I am currently having with this one. Because there's one magical thing about plastic, is that it is incredibly resistant to everything. It's resistant to temperature, it's resistant to erosion, corrosion, not erosion, yada yada yada. But you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, metal is better than plastic. We use metal when we want a high quality material in our stuff. And you would be correct, except that there is one property metal has that plastic does not, which is terrible for this application. And that is the fact that metal expands when it is hot, right? It seems like maybe a bit of a given for some people, but let me show you what that means for a metal cartridge faucet. Alright, so we have a metal cartridge faucet, we have hot here. I'm going to turn on the hot water and we're going to see what happens. So right now it's all nice and cold, all room temperature. Turn on the hot water, waste some water, but it's okay because I live in a country that, has an incredibly large supply of very clean water, so I'm not too worried about this. We're going to wait for this to heat up a little bit. It takes a little while. It's heating up now. And look at that. The stream has killed itself almost. Let's see, is it gonna go? Sometimes it turns off completely. Yeah, look at that. It goes slower and slower and slower. And I think we're at the limit, but you can see that it has dropped at least 95% of its water pressure. And if we go back to this, we'll see that when I try to close it, it's almost closed. But how is that possible? I gave it a good half turn to open. But now it's, it's closed. So what the hell happened? Well, let's go over to my table and I will draw this out.
Alright, so now that we're back at my desk, let us look at how a faucet works on the inside. So here is a really crude representation of the actual handle. So it doesn't have the handle, but it has the part that's inside. So you can see it looks a little bit like a screw. And that's what a handle is. You twist it one way and it's going to go one way. If you twist it the other way, it'll come back out the other way. Now let's see how it looks when it's in a pipe. So here we have our water heater giving us water through our pipe, and our sink over here, which is where the water is going to go. When it is closed, is in this position here, and we are going to open it. Now that it is open, cold water is going through. Eventually the water will heat up, however, and in that case, what is going to happen is all the metal is going to expand like we talked about earlier. So this is going to expand, this one's going to expand, and this one is going to expand like that. And boom, suddenly with every piece of metal in the system expanding, there's nowhere for the water to flow. And that's exactly why we saw earlier that the water stopped flowing after just 20 seconds of hot water coming through.
Alright. And we have now arrived at the very final part of why this faucet annoys the absolute hell out of me. So, we talked about how the metal expands and therefore it cuts off the circulation of the water, meaning that it stops pumping water, and that's okay, fine, I can just open it up again. But here's the other issue. The metal's hot, it expands, so what happens when the metal is cold? Well, the metal shrinks. So once I've gotten my water, I turn it off and I leave, right? 10 minutes later, when it's cooled down back to room temperature, well, guess what? the exact opposite thing happens. The screw shrinks, the pipe shrinks away, meaning that what used to be a seal is no longer a seal, which means that we now get the ever so slight drip coming out of this. So it's slow enough of a drip that you don't get it very often, maybe once every 15 seconds. But it's often enough and loud enough that you will notice it. So we're gonna get the drip? Ah, there you go. There was a nice, beautiful drip. So every 20 seconds or so, you get a nice little click, which of course resonates through the entire gosh dang house. So you get reminded, it's the frickin' faucet again. You have to come over here, you have to give it a nice little turn, or pass cold water through it to make sure it gets nice and shrunk. And now the problem is finally solved. So I wanted some hot water. Well, that means I had to open it, let it heat up, open it again, let it heat up a little bit more, open it enough, and then leave, or pass cold water through it to make sure I don't get drip, 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 drip. So that is why this faucet has annoyed the ever-loving crap out of me. Hope you never have to deal with one of these. Thank you for watching.